MFA would have prevented major fraud, but not before the CFO learned the hard way, by user Death Star Help Desk. Before COVID, I worked for a small business that had been around longer than the internet. The company's IT setup was, to put it mildly, a mess. Some departments were hanging on to decade-old computers and printers, while others were upgrading to new tech every year, no real rhyme or reason. When I started, I began suggesting ways to reduce costs and increase efficiency, mostly by replacing those 10-plus-year-old machines. But my real battle came when I tried to roll out MFA. At the time, we didn't have a password policy in place. Some employees were using the same password for their personal accounts, email, banks, social media, and work accounts, and never changed it, or even change it slightly. I made the case for MFA, explaining how it could prevent breaches, especially with the loose password practices. But, of course, I was shut down across the board. Fast forward to the COVID era. One of our business managers reported she wasn't receiving emails from her director. At first, we thought it was just a typical user mistake, maybe an email rule gone wrong, something that happens often with users who love organizing their inboxes with lots of subfolders. After digging deeper, we found the root cause, a rule that moved all emails from her director directly to a folder in trash. And then we discovered something worse. In her sent folder, there were several emails sent to accounts payable. These emails had been doctored to look like legitimate approvals from the director, approvals for invoices that had never actually been given. During COVID, most of our business and finance teams started working from home. Instead of invoices being sent via inter-office mail, they were now being emailed. And this allowed the fraud to take place. It turned out the bad actor, had access to this employee's account for over a year before this all blew up. Once the change to email-based invoicing was made, they used the director's signature from real invoices and copied it onto fraudulent ones, resulting in tens of thousands of dollars in fake payments. The business manager hadn't noticed the missing emails until her director asked about an urgent, time-sensitive matter she hadn't responded to because the emails had been sitting in trash for months. After the fraud was uncovered, the CFO finally came around. It only took a massive loss to make MFA seem like a really good idea. Now, they're suddenly all about security, but honestly, it felt a little too late. When a CEO requests for a hard-coded ID to be changed, presumably for an important reason, by user Elegant Winner 6521. I had a request in from company CEO to change a fundamental database two-letter ID to match another analysis field ID, e.g. in one table a thing has the ID of CE and the corresponding analysis ID in another table has the ID of CD. I understand that request in principle. You'd ideally want these to line up so that you can easily align reporting metrics and keep things generally tidy and easy to follow. In foresight, this would have been a very sensible approach to naming conventions. Here's the problem. These IDs are literally 20 years old at this point. We're talking a company with maybe 15 different branches in different locations, hundreds of staff, terabytes of data going back decades, millions or tens of millions of records. It predates several company mergers. It affects reporting, automations, validations, all sorts of things. And the reason this ID is a comical 2 letters is because it's basically one of the most fundamental things you would set up in this system before you had any data. The other thing is that this is quite easily solved with sensible coding anyway. The IDs don't need to match, however much you might want them to visually. I asked why he wants to change the prefix, assuming it was something to do with how they need their reporting to function going forward, and he said it's just annoying that it's not the same. I want them to be uniform. I'm still figuring out the best way to deal with this one. I know this CEO to be a pedantic ass about stuff like this. I suspect he thinks it's entirely reasonable to have his entire company implode for a couple of weeks just so that he can look at this one 2-letter prefix and feel happier that it looks right. How does one politely say, you may as well ask to realign the foundations of your house because it's a couple of degrees not parallel with the pavement? I click and nothing, by user Valhiru. It happened some time ago. I had been working in the IT department of my organization for several years and it seemed to me that I had seen everything that users had to offer. As it turned out later, I was wrong. One day, when I was assigned to handle the so-called first line of support, I received a call from a lady newly employed in our company, who was having problems with starting a program required for work at her position. When I asked what exactly was happening, she replied, I click on the program and it does not start. Since I did not receive any other information that this system, shared across all positions in the organization, had any problems, I asked if double-clicking on the icon displays any message so that I could diagnose whether the problem was hardware or software related. I clicked twice and nothing, she replied. At that point, however, I wanted to see for myself what was going on, so since every workstation in our company has a program like Help Desk with which they can connect to IT support and share with us their desktop, basic data such as IP address etc., I asked her to run it. It doesn't work either, I heard. Okay, I thought now I know something more. So I asked. Does the cursor move on the screen when you move the mouse? A moment later I heard. Yes, when I move mouse something moves. After another few minutes of conversation, it turned out that the lady was not able to provide any information that would allow me to remotely connect to her computer from my place, apart from the department where she works, which has a large number of workstations. Since the area where our company is located is quite large, each department has its own warehouse with spare equipment, so in order to exhaust all possibilities, I asked her to take a second mouse from it and connect it to the computer. In response, I heard. This is already the second mouse. I thought, oh, so it's something worse. For a moment I was toying with the idea of telling the lady to change the USB port to another one, but in the end I decided that I would go to the place to check what was going on. So I asked her to give me her room number and wait until I came. After some time I finally got there and found the room she indicated and the employee was waiting for me, but before I even sat down at the desk I asked. Can you show me how you are trying to start the program? The lady took the mouse and said to me. Well, I'm telling you that I'm pointing on icon and clicking twice and nothing. She did what she said, she pointed on the program icon. And then she grabbed the entire mouse and hit it twice on the pad. See? I click and nothing. Yes, I think you are thinking exactly what I was thinking at the time. In her defense I can only say that she was an older person. The problem went away when I taught the lady how to click correctly. You have to type the password really fast, by userdanager__. The title probably gives it away. So years back there was a network appliance operating over a slightly dodgy Ethernet cable. Why the cable was not simply replaced is lost to time. The person setting it up, not me, noted that some of the traffic gets lost and decided to combat the problem by typing really fast. In particular they set a long password which you would normally type with two hands, making sure they type really fast. Afterwards everyone got warned that you have to log in while typing really fast due to packet loss. Sure enough, almost all attempts at typing the password at normal rate would fail, but even when typing really fast you would get in maybe 1/3 of the time. The real reason for auth trouble was that typing really fast resulted in swapping two letters and you had to make the same typo to get in. Worst user you could imagine threatens a raccoon with roadkill and follows through, by user noldstuff_192. One man IT show for medium-sized business here. Computer repairs, networking, help desk, sysadmin, developer cert for ERP software. I do it all well enough. Seeing as this a privately owned medium-sized business, there really isn't any bureaucracy I can hide behind, so the classic IT no ticky, no washi is a constant battle. I track my own tasks using monday.com and make sure I have written communication when it comes to requests for changes to the system, but a certain user with a lot of power in the organization insisted on calling. Always. I'll save a wall of exposition text by saying this person is difficult to get along with. You'll have to take my word for it, but I can get along with damn near anybody, and after working with this person for a few years I really wish they'd just go away. A couple weeks ago, she calls me up and immediately starts screaming at me over some issues she claimed I should have dealt with months ago. I did, but she's not tech savvy enough to know the difference between the cloud being down and the power being out, and she's keen on making this somebody else's problem. This is not the first, second, or 12th time she's lost her shit over nonsense, and I am not a tech support punching bag. I hung up on her mid-rant. And then I screened her when she tried to call back. Fuck her influence, let her try to sick management on me. They know she's a psycho. Her response to this was to text me that I am not to contact her again about anything, ever. What followed was the chillest week I'd had in months. Then the communication started up again because she runs the purchasing department and can't do shit without me. Texts and emails only. Our initial exchange was a little spicy, but after that, I thought fuck it, this is what I wanted in the first place, let's encourage this. So now I'm getting much more done because I'm not constantly getting interrupted with phone calls that demand my immediate attention. Edit, you're breathtaking. You're all breathtaking. Okay, just for anyone who came here because they're wondering what the hell the raccoon thing is about, The idea is that this lady punished me with exactly what I wanted in the first place, like threatening a raccoon with food. The reason you've never heard of this idiom is because I made it up. Actually it exists in other languages, just not in English.